Right, another day in the garage. Today we're going to be installing the AEM X-Line boost gauge setup for my MIATA. Now, let's show you what's inside here. So, you'll get your harness, your hose, and miscellaneous fittings and stuff. That's kind of right there. And I bought this. This is an optional AEM sensor that's a little bit more accurate than the OE brass that it comes with. So if you want something more accurate, you want to get this stainless steel sensor. This is accurate to within like 1%. The original ones, I think it's like 3% or something. So this is one side, and if you flip this over, there's the gauge, but we're just gonna flip it in here and hopefully we don't drop anything. There's a gauge. We'll take it out. All right, so here's what you get inside the box. You get the gauge, obviously. These things are pretty narrow, as you can see. So gone are the days of the fat gauges. You get the sensor. This is the stainless steel version. This is the brass version, depending on which one you want to use. This is accurate to within 3D, I think, percent, and this is within a percent of the whole spectrum. So if you need more resolution for your tune, you'd want to get this. But for now, we'll just show you both because these are kind of like the two options. You have to order one or the other. You don't get both. And then here's a fitting that you can attach to the end of this sensor, so you could put it remotely somewhere. That's where this hose comes into play. And butt connectors, which I'm not going to use because I'm going to solder this in and then heat shrink it properly. And plug and play harness here that goes straight to the pins back here, so you don't need to do any of that because it's already done for you. So I'm going to show you where I'm going to put this sensor. It's going to go directly into my Skunk 2 manifold, so we don't need these hoses and whatnot. We just need one direct connector right here, and then we're going to route it through the firewall and into the tombstone where the two AC vents are. So let's get that started. So the Skunk 2 manifold's got ports right here for optional accessories. Like right now it's connected to the blow-off valve. See that hose that goes over there into that nipple that goes into the side of the manifold. And back there I also have the ECU connection right there that goes to the MS3 Pro, and then the vacuum line for the brake booster. So we have one free port right there, and that's where we're going to put it. And the back also has one free port, so it just depends on where I want to put it. The sensor is pretty long, so it might be tricky to put in there, so let's give it a try. Right, here's our sensor. We're going to put a little bit of sealant on this. This is a pneumatic sealant, so it's not blue thread lock or anything like that. Works pretty good for anything that's hydraulic or just needs to be sealed. This is going to be a little tricky. It's a little tight here. This thing's pretty close to the injector walls, so hopefully I can still put the harness in there. Now, like I said, you can put this anywhere you want. You could just use those adapters. You could put it remotely via hose. It's, preference. But since I have these holes in my manifold, why not, right? I mean, that's what they're made for. And it's better to have direct signal from the actual source because at least it's pretty freaking accurate, right? So let's see. That on here, make sure this thing's nice and snug. Now we do have thread locker on here, or sealant, so it should be okay if it's slightly loose, but you also don't want to gorilla tighten this, because if you do and it snaps, you're gonna be pissed. Here's the harness. This is pretty straightforward. You click this into the sensor, and the other side goes to the gauge, and you just need to tap it for power, and that's pretty much it. See? Just whip this out real quick. There you go. So this is the part that goes to the sensor. It's a 3-wire, and the rest right here goes to the power. Next thing you want to do is you want to depin this so you could slide it through the little hole. If you have a big hole or whatever, you might not need to depin it, but I have a tiny little hole that I need to route this through. So you want to get yourself a little pick like this, and or a needle or whatever you have that's laying around that's fine enough to push the holder right here. It's like a little lock for the wire. And you just gotta lift it and pull the wire out, and it should just come out. Should. Sometimes you kind of need to fight them, but it's a good thing because if they're loose, then you wouldn't feel too secure. Okay, there you go. There's one. Whatever you do, make sure you don't break the pin or lock, because that can happen and you're gonna be pissed. Oh, shit. Okay. There you go. I'm guessing the green is the signal, positive, negative is red and black. So 2 more. Here's the black. Come on, man. There you go. Don't be afraid to do this. Before you do it though, I suggest you write where the freaking pins go, or just take a photo with your phone, that way you'll remember later. So there you go. This harness goes in the car, and this one is the one that we're gonna be routing through the firewall. Because you can see, like, if you don't depin it, you have this giant freaking harness connector that you need to kind of figure out where to put. So I'm gonna do that. And then this label right here we're not gonna need, so I'm gonna take that off. Ooh. Get in there. There you go. Now we got some glue on there. Just hit it with brake cleaner and it should just come off. Voila. Okay, now you're good. Now one thing you want to be careful, you don't want to bend any of these locking pins that's on the tip right here. So best thing to do is get yourself some tape and just tape these guys together, because you're gonna fish them into the firewall anyways. So just tape them together. That way you know they're not gonna get banged up as you push them through the firewall. So back on the car side here, now I'm gonna see if this will clip on the back of that sensor without us having to do anything, because like I said, that sensor is pretty long versus the brass version, so it might not fit and I might need to reconsider its placement, because if I can't put the freaking sensor thing in connector, this would be a useless work. Okay, so I'm just fishing the line down under the manifold. That way it's nice and clean, out of the way, kind of just hidden, you know? Worst thing about half-ass wiring job is they start to look like rat's nest. So here's what I'm talking about. I'm gonna get a close-up on this later, but I need to figure out the orientation of this connector. Hopefully this works. I really want to mount this in here. I'm just gonna give this enough room to flex. Oh yeah, dude. That barely clears. I'll get a close-up of this after, but that is awesome. That's awesome. All right, so we're right in there. I think this is gonna work where it's placed. And then we just need to run these wires under the manifold. We're gonna need to go under the car right here in a minute here and tape this thing down. Or sorry, tape this thing down, how ghetto. Zip tie it down. All right, after you install the sensor, it should look like this. Look at that, if you have the skunk setup. Now, if you don't have the skunk setup and you can't put the sensor there, you can also just tap any vacuum line that goes into your intake manifold into a T down to the sensor using one of the connectors that I stated in the beginning of this video. Now, if you look closely, it's pretty tight back there. You see that? The connector is right there in the back. I'm not sure if it's even visible from up here, but it clears. Then I routed all of that line, the factory AEM line, down, under, and now it's over here. Now I'm gonna route that all the way over to the driver's side, and I popped off this cap right here, as you can see, and that's the inside of the car. See that? Come on, focus. There you go. See that? You can see the inside of the car. There's a light in there, and it's fairly visible. So that goes through the car. See? You could see the light back there. And once you pop that cap, you can route the wiring through there, and you just basically just tap it. So let's do that right now. I'm also gonna throw in the wideband sensor wire in there, because I also have a wideband gauge that I need to install. So I'll just do both now. That way you guys can knock out two things at the same time. All right, so this is the AEM air fuel meter, and it comes with the wideband Bosch sensor, the harness to go to the sensor, harness that goes to the gauge and powers the gauge, and then that feedbacks to the ECU, and obviously your gauge right here, same style, flat, and this will fit perfectly on the tombstone. And you also get a bung right here. This is the bung. If you don't have a hole already for your O2 sensor, you can have a muffler shop or a fab shop do this. I'm gonna have Eric do this at Voodoo because I want it done nice. And butt connectors, again, I'm not gonna use those butt connectors. So we're gonna take the O2 sensor, kind of just mock it up under the car to see where I want it. And then I'm just gonna throw this wire on there along with the boost wire. That way I can just get it all done at once. Right, so we're gonna route this thing down there along with the boost gauge wiring. That way I don't have to fuss with it later. Now this is the side that goes to the oxygen sensor, so you get a pretty dang long wiring harness, to be honest. Pretty crazy. I might need to cut this, but for now, I'm just gonna drop this in there and kind of just mock it up and see how much wire I need. Now, most people will probably just coil this and hide it somewhere, but I hate doing that. And I'll probably end up just opening this, cutting it to size once everything's installed, and then that should be it. Now, we're gonna go under the car real quick, and I'm gonna pop this through. You won't be able to see this, I doubt, because it's dark down there, but I'll see if I can light this up real quick. So I'm gonna put that there. I'm gonna take this guy. I'm gonna crawl under the car, like my ninja crawl. I got a creeper down here too, which kind of helps. But here's the boost wire. And I'm just gonna toss this somewhere here. My O2 sensor is gonna be somewhere over here, or maybe over there. So it just really depends on where I wanna put it. But I'm just gonna toss it up here for now. And we can situate the length later. Okay. Now, I'm not sure if you can even see what I'm doing here, but basically just tossing it up there. That way I can pull it from the top. Now, if you half-ass your wiring, you're gonna hate yourself later because it's always gonna bite you in the butt. A rat's nest job is not good. And it makes it harder to do anything else in the future if you jerry-rig things. Now, if you just do it right the first time, it'll always be nice and clean. And, it's presentable. You won't have a headache next time you try to figure out what wires what. Okay, so we're gonna feed this through. I'm gonna feed maybe like 4 feet up there. That way I could see it. All right, so I got both of the connectors right here, left and right. Now I'm gonna see if I could pop it in there, and then I might need to drill a hole into this plug. So this is the plug that I removed from there. See this? Now, I think this will fit in there. Now I could depin all of these so it fits better, but I don't think I need to do that. I think I'll just drill a hole on here, wide enough for that to fit. And then we should be good. Do we take our drill, get our drill bits? Where's our drill bits? Now, if you guys aren't sure, just try it out and see if it works. I'm gonna use this giant bit, and it should be big enough, hopefully. And if I screw up this thing, we can always just get, what do you call it? What do you call those freaking things? Grommet. All right. It's crazy how the MIATA is not as sealed as I would have thought. It's actually pretty open. Like, these seals probably aren't that great. See what I mean? I made it just big enough, and I just guesstimated that. And then you just force it through. Come on. There you go. There you go. Now, this looks like it's perfect for both. I'll show you guys a close-up on this later once everything's kind of pieced together. Okay. That's good. Here you go. But you see what I mean? That's pretty sealed. Now we just take this guy, we poke it through this firewall hole. Now the best thing to do when you're installing any electrical component, use holes that's already there. I mean, yeah, sometimes you have to blow holes, but whenever possible, just remove some of these caps and inspect it. You never know. Might just save you a lot of time just reusing the holes that's already there. See? Not sure that's visible right now, but it's in there. All right, so the next phase of the install will be inside here. What we're gonna do is we're gonna tear apart the tombstone right there where the two bezels are. I see the silver bezels right there above the shifter. And we're also gonna take out the center console. That way, we have access to the whole shebang, and we're gonna pull that thing off and put the gauges in there. All right, I know there's like a billion ways to remove the eyeballs. Best thing to do for me is I use this little pick. Actually, it's a big pick. And you go like this, I just wedge it in there, and I just pull sharply, and it just pops out. I've already done these, but you kind of get what I mean. There are two tabs in here, left and right, that retains these two corners, and that's all you have to break, and they'll just pop off without a fight. And then after that, we have two screws on each side. I think there's one somewhere up here and one somewhere over here. I always forget where the hell it is. I know it's here somewhere. Is it up here? Let's see. I don't usually take apart the tombstone. Oh yeah. Yep, it's right here. It's like a 11 o'clock position. There's one right here. Try not to drop this in that vent. I guess it wouldn't be that hard to take out, but why? Just hold it. Okay. I'm taking out the tombstone, all that stuff, so I could wipe this thing down, and then also you know, have easier access for wiring this stuff. So now we pop this guy off. be any other bolts on here. And that's pretty much it. I think there's a, yeah, there is. There's a harness right here for the hazards and the headlight control. And bam, there you go. You got your tombstone. This thing's stainless steel, so it's pretty stout. Pull the eyeball out. There's your eyeball. What keeps this in place is the felt that's in here. So if you look closely, you see the really dark, flat material. That's felt. And usually when this wears out, that's when you need to buy more felt, replace it, or just buy new eyeballs. The eyeball isn't actually that expensive. So let's see. And there you go, dudes. Installed with the bezels in place. Looks pretty clean to me. I'm not complaining. And we're good. Actually, the pop-up isn't as bad as I thought. And actually, I kind of like it. Ha! Look at that. No ghetto-ness. Everything in the back is nice and clean. And now we can plumb our wiring into the tombstone. Alright, so check this out. After a few revisions, I actually figured out how to mount the gauges behind the tombstone. So we're gonna keep it this way. It looks pretty damn good. And we're basically using the same method that we did earlier with the shim and whatnot. But look at that. Looks pretty good to me. So now we're ready to finish up the wiring and power these guys up. This is the main lead that goes through the firewall up to the gauge, and then the other, this is where you tap power, is right here. Wires are right here put together. This one's AFR, this one's boost. As you can see, they're labeled. It's routed from the firewall down to the bottom of the stereo right here, and there's a harness right here under the radio and the shifter. It's like there's like a pin here, or not a pin, sorry. There's a connector that I think it's used for the power stuff that I don't need. And I've already tested this with a voltmeter, and this black and white wire is the positive. It's fairly thick because I know it's probably for the power window switches, and the ground's right here. So I'm gonna tap both of these guys. As you can see, I joined the two blacks from the AFR and the boost, and the two reds from the AFR and the boost into one. I'm gonna solder them together, and then I'm gonna heat shrink them. And then the signal wire, this is the analog plus, analog minus, so positive, negative, that goes into the MS3 Pro. And that's pretty much it. The boost gauge, it's not gonna need to feed back into the ECU, so I got the extra wires right here, kind of looped in and zip tied away, because I don't know if I need it later for another car or whatever. If I decide to take this thing apart, it's here. So we're gonna get this ready, and we're gonna strip the lead right here. Now, some of you guys might want to disconnect your battery for this just in case, but this is not powered randomly. It's powered by the accessory, or not accessory actually, the on switch. So as long as your key's off, you should be good. So this thing is stripped. I got a piece of wire that just fell somewhere back there. Now it's hard to find. Oh man, I hate stripping things and letting it fall. Anyways, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a microfiber down right here, because I don't want to burn anything that I don't want to burn, you know, like my shifter right here or whatever. So I'm gonna move this over here, move this over here. I'm gonna take the positive and negative and twist them on here accordingly. So the positive, negative, it's pretty simple, to be honest. Just kind of put them together right here. Like I said, this wire, the black and white, is pretty freaking hefty. Like it's thick, it's a big boy. So it's gonna be enough to power the gauges and the wideband, because the wideband's gonna need power, and I think it's like 5 amps or something. And this right here, this thick ass wire, is plenty for what we need. So just wanna make sure that we have this right here. Then we are going to solder. Hard part is I don't have something to hold this. I usually would have some sort of clip or something, but let's see if I could loop it like this and solder it into place. Oh, it's not a beauty contest when it comes to soldering, especially when they're totally different materials like this. Usually I get a pretty good solder using this soldering iron, but the MIATA stock wiring seems to be pretty tough. I don't know what it is. Copper? You guys know? I'm not sure if it's copper or if it's something else, but it's a total bitch. But I mean, this is pretty solid connection, to be honest. This ain't going nowhere. Quick tug test. Looks good. Feels good. It's pretty strong. Slide our shrink tubing, and then we can heat it up. Look at this. This is a Toyo lighter. No longer available. We used to give them away, but no one supports smoking anymore, so they're no longer available. All right, so we got our main power. This is our negative, this is our positive. Both of them are joined together, and these two signals are gonna go into the ECU. But first, we're gonna test the gauges, make sure they work before we button everything up, because that'd be kind of stupid to button everything up and they don't work. So after testing the gauges, we buttoned it up and everything's back together. So check this out. This is how they look static, off mode, no lights, nothing. And then when we turn on the power is obviously right here, your key, turn on the key, and this is how they look. So that heat right there, when it says heat, that's the O2 sensor heating up. This O2 sensor needs to heat up so it can get an accurate reading of your air-fuel ratio. Once it's heated up, it takes a few seconds, it'll go into some sort of number. Sometimes it goes to like super lean. Right now it's not reading anything, so it's blank. Here's a close-up of that. Looks pretty good. Here's the boost side. Hard to see from this angle. Let me see if I could twist it a little bit. There you go. Now, some people think that this is going to be hard to see because the bezels and it's kind of deep in there, but it's actually not bad. This is from the driver's angle right here. This is the camera right by the seat, and yeah, it's looking pretty good. It took a while, but to perfect the install, it took me, I don't know, a day and a half or so to get this situated, but I like it. Everything's good and it works. You know, when I turn off the key, it turns off. I turn it on, goes back and does its thing. Here's how it looks with the steering wheel on. Not bad, huh? Looking pretty clean. You can kind of see it back there. Kind of matches everything else. I did keep the ring on there for the AC, so it blends right in with a bunch of the polished trimming. Now, you might be wondering why I have a blanket over the car. It gets pretty dusty in the garage, so that's why I have that on there. But the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna work on the new Rocket Bunny version 2 spoiler that I just got, and that'll be the next video. See you guys then.